Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Radio Denver. As you can tell, I've been wearing my mask, and I'm going to take it off in here since I'm the only one in the studio, and we sanitize everything. I want to encourage you to make one of these if you can't find one, and if you don't have a sewing machine, this was all just a little bit of hand stitching. I actually made one also, just so you know, with Gorilla Tape, so like duct tape. So they're not that hard to make, and you get used to wearing them. We are here, we are online, we are live with you because we want to be a place you can turn to. We know this is a scary time, and we are here. We're here. We're sharing our love with you. Couple shout outs as we get started here. I have some great sponsors. The first is veteranspride.org. They do these amazing shadow boxes for veterans. You can find them at veteranspride.org. And order a shadow box with, if you're any kind of vet or there's a vet in your family, any veteran, using all the medals and awards and anything, and they put these beautiful shadow boxes together. I'm actually doing one in honor of my father who passed several years ago, but he was in the Navy and he was a signalman, and I have his flags, and they're going to put a shadow box together for me. So that I also have a second sponsor I want to tell you about. She's this amazing 5 Elements acupuncturist, and I will have more information about her as we go through. Right now, because of the virus, she's closed, but it's Peak Wellness Acupuncture, and I had been using her quite a bit just to stay healthy, and she will be open, hopefully, by the end of the month again. Okay, those are the commercials. How are you doing out there? It's a scary time, isn't it? Let's just start with one deep breath, okay? I want everyone to take a deep breath in. I want you to feel the love from KUHS Denver. Just want you to feel it. And exhale and lower your energy. Come back into your center. Come back into yourself. Okay? Right this moment, as you're listening to me, you're safe. You're okay. Let's remember where we are. And today, we're going to talk about not only where we are, but how we're moving into the future. So, if you've been listening to me at all, you know me, right? My tag is inspiring a renaissance of spirit. I want to embellish that a little bit. I want to tell you that what I do with people, as I've got this PhD in Ed Psych, I've been trained as an astrologer, I have a master's in Jewish mysticism, I've trained with Kabbalists and shamans, I've had an interesting life, let's just say that. I help people find what their soul is yearning for. Why are you on this planet? What is your best self? I help you find it, embrace it, and live it. And I'm going to give you an example of some of that today because I'll be doing an astrology reading live on the show, and so you're going to get a flavor of it. You can find me. You can go to KUHS Denver and message me through there. You can go to Facebook at the Dr. Elisa Show and message me through there. You can go to my website, elisarobin.com. Find me there. I'm very easy to find, quite frankly. And I can work with you. I'm actually doing half-price sessions right now using both my psychology skills and my astrology skills because I know it's a tough time. So what is the show about for you today? Because I have to say that while I love doing the radio, I come in here every day that I do this show for you because I want to give you a message of hope. I want to help you move your personal needle from fear to hope. That's what I'm here for. In fact, that's what KUHS is here for. So, how are we going to do this? I've got a few stories for you about my life, and then I'll do a reading. So let me get started. So there's a saying, there's a Jewish saying, that the world is a very narrow bridge. And the important thing is to not be afraid. And that idea of a narrow bridge, a narrow place, has really been striking me lately, really been, I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because we're all in this narrow place of restriction. And I want to tell you a couple stories about that and give you a sense of how we can come out of that. So in part because last night was the first night of Passover, and that is a story of walking from a narrow place to a wide place. Let me start with a story about me, though. So last summer, I took a hiking trip with a girlfriend to a place called Madeira Island. Now, here's what's amazing about this story. January of last year, I'd never even heard of this place, ever. And then June, I'm there hiking. I saw a picture on my computer screen, and I just had to go. It looked amazing, and it was. Off the coast of Portugal, I'd never spent time in Europe. This was a massive, major life adventure. And every day, there was a lesson. Sometimes the lesson was, if you think you're lost, you just haven't gone far enough. Or if you think you're lost, just stop and wait, because somebody will show up and help you. But here was the most profound lesson I think I had. So you can imagine I'm hiking. I've never been here. I have directions that were written in Portuguese and translated to English. They're in kilometers, I think in miles, and they're on some grid, this piece of paper I have, without a map, and I'm the navigator. So, and there are points in the instructions for the hike that say things like, the trail plunges and will be slippery. And I thought that I've never even seen anyone say a trail plunged, and it did. And there were a few times we simply sat down and inched ourselves down these trails. And then there were the tunnels, and that's what I want to talk about. So we were warned there would be some tunnels. We were hiking along the Lavada, and the Lavada is this beautiful, beautiful irrigation system that was built. It's a rock and cement, mostly rock irrigation system that goes all through the island, and it brings the water from up high in the island down to where people need it. And oh my gosh, lovely, lovely people, great place. And you could hike along this irrigation system. And there'd be, the Lavada itself, the irrigation system, was probably about 3 feet wide, and the trail was maybe 2-ish, maybe a little less in places. And there were places where, when you were hiking, that they had blasted through a part of the mountain and built like a tunnel so you could go through. The catch with these tunnels is they had not made them for people to walk through them. So they were not tall. I'm 5'5", and I was never able to walk through one standing straight up. And my girlfriend is 6 feet or almost 6 feet, and she definitely couldn't. So we had little headlamps with us. We were told to bring those. And we did our few tunnels, and then we got to the tunnel. This tunnel we got to, and remember, there's often traffic going both ways. So here we are. We get to this tunnel, and when I look in, I cannot see the light at the other end, which tells me it's pretty long, and it's very dark, pitch black. There's no lighting in here. And the trail that I'm on, this 2 feet maybe wide little trail, is really wet and rocky. Some of them were very smooth, but not this one. And to get through it, right, I have a day pack on and I have my headlamp on, but I also had a hat on, and with a brim, and a light doesn't work when you have a brim. And we'd also not figured out how to turn it on super bright. So we walk in. I have a pole in one hand. My girlfriend had lent me one of her poles so that I could figure out exactly where the edge of my trail was and not fall into the Lavada. I have one hand, I'm sort of scrunched over. I have one arm over my head so that I can, because I can't actually see where the roof is, where the top of this tunnel is, and it's jagged. So I want it to hit my arm instead of my head. And I have this light, except I have a brim on my hat, and I suddenly realized I can't use it with the brim because I can't see anything. So I take the light, and my hands are busy, and I'm in the dark, and I take the light off the top of my hat where the brim is, and I put it in my mouth. And I'm holding it in my mouth, okay? So you gotta imagine this. I'm sort of bent over, I have one arm over my head, I've got one hand holding a pole, and I've got this light in my mouth looking down and then looking up to try to see where I am. And my girlfriend is in front of me asking me if I'm okay, and I can't answer because I have this light in my mouth. And this tunnel was almost a quarter mile long. And I'm going step after step, and it's squishy, and the ground's uneven. And I get about what I think is halfway through this tunnel, and part of my brain says, I do not want to do this anymore. I'm done. And the other part of my brain says, well, that's nice, but what exactly are you going to do? I mean, you have to get out, because where you're going is on the other side. You can't call 911, and even if they came, they would just laugh at you. You have no option. First part of my brain said, I don't like this. I'm afraid. I don't want to do this. And this other part of my brain, that was a little older and wiser perhaps, said, okay, you don't have to like it. You just have to keep walking. One step at a time. That's all you have to do. And you can dislike every single step. You just have to keep walking. And that's what I did. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I was scared. And I was really scared somebody would come the other way, because there was nowhere to go. There was no passing lane. And then, in a little bit, I could see the light. I could see that the tunnel was going to end. And I could keep going. And then I didn't need my light, because the light was pouring in. And I got out the other side. I took this silly light out of my mouth. My girlfriend looked at me like, why was that in your mouth? We both burst out laughing and hugged each other. And she said, yeah, she was scared too. She is actually the woman who I'll be doing a reading for later in this show, and I'm going to ask her to remember that experience. So why am I sharing that? Because every morning that's how I feel. And I'm wondering if you feel the same way. Every morning I wake up and wonder, am I safe? Am I okay? Am I healthy? Are my friends healthy? I don't like this. And part of my brain goes, you don't have to like it. You just have to do it. And you know why? Because you're doing it for everybody else. I may not get sick, but I don't know. What if I'm a carrier? I'm staying home because I want everyone else to be healthy. We come in here to KUHS Denver because we know that you listen to us and we're helpful. I'm hoping this Dr. Elisa show makes you feel hopeful, that you can get through that tunnel. You don't have to like it. You just have to keep walking. And here's why it's especially poignant now, today. I mean, you can get it, right? We're all feeling restricted. But there's another piece of it, and I said this at the beginning. So I've talked about my experiences in Jewish Kabbalah and mysticism. Last night was the first night of Passover. And you probably know the story. You probably saw the movie, one of the movies, right? That there's these plagues, and the Israelites walk out, and then they're trapped, and then the ocean splits, and all this stuff. So there's a mystical end to this story also. And part of it is that we retell the story every year at our Seders. We did one on Zoom last night. We did a virtual one last night. But we don't tell the story exactly like the movie. And, the book is always different than the movie, right? But this is very poignantly true this time. How is that story different? Well, to begin with, we believe that only 20% of the slaves had the courage to walk out of Egypt. Imagine this. They're in a life they don't like. They're afraid. They're in a narrow place. The Hebrew word for Egypt is Mitzrayim, which translates as narrow place. Because Egypt grew up along the Nile. And so, because that's where the water was. So it was a narrow place, right along the Nile. For the slaves, it was emotionally, spiritually narrow. But it was known. They knew what to do. Imagine this. Somebody comes to you and says, you know, if you have the courage to leave this place, we will walk out and you will see a startling bright sun reflected off this amazing white sand and this water like you've never seen, and you will learn freedom. And 80% of the people said, that's frightening. That's scary. I know life here. I want to stay here. 20% went. And they were right. It was scary, right? They were also scared. They were like me walking through that tunnel. I don't like this, but I'm going to do it. And what happens when they leave? They get to the Reed Sea, not the Red Sea, the Reed Sea in the Hebrew. It's the Reed Sea. And there they are. They're at the Reed Sea, and there's an army behind them, and there's a sea in front of them. And what are they supposed to do? And if you saw the movie, right, if you sort of know the story, your version of the story that you heard was Moses raises the staff and the water split. And I have to tell you, that's not exactly what the book says, and that's not exactly how we interpret it. What really happened? What do we think happened? Well, first off, the commandment really was, speak to the people, they shall travel. So they're told, go, walk into the sea. And only after that will the water open. Okay, so you just sort of imagine yourself, right? I'm standing at the sea, I'm looking at the sea, there's someone behind me, I'm like, what have I done? I'm terrified. And oh my God, I have to just walk into this water, the water of my fears. And we have a story of one man, Nakshan, who said, I will do this. And he walks into this water. And I imagine everybody watching him, and he walks into this water, and the water comes up around his ankles and his calves, and it keeps going, and it comes up around his knees, and he keeps going, and eventually it's up to his waist. You know how that's that really scary part when you get in water and you suddenly realize how cold it is, and there's something about getting it around your core, and he keeps going. He must have been terrified. Really terrified. And he keeps going, and the water got right up to his nose, and then it split. The water opened around him. He walked deeply into his fears, and they opened and spread around him. And when we tell the story, we're not sure. Did everyone have to do that? Or was it simply knowing that somebody else was brave enough to lead the way that taught everyone else they could do this? It's another reason I think that I love coming into the radio station. I have to tell you, maybe you just need, all of us just need that one person to say, we can do this. We can do this. And then we all can do this. It's an interesting story of Passover, and not necessarily the one you've heard in the past. Only when we move through our fears, and think of that sort of tunnel they walked through, right? They walked from the narrow place of slavery through this narrow water tunnel. And that had to be sort of a magnificent thing to walk through. If you've ever surfed in a curved wave, it's pretty startling. I have never successfully done that, let me add that, but I've tried. But even just see pictures of that, and you see that beautiful tunnel of water around you, and at the same time, your breath is taken away, and at the same time, you're scared, right? Both of those are happening at the same time. Wonder, awe, a sense of awe, and fear, all mixed together. That's where we are. That's where we are. And what I'm hoping KUHS Denver does for you is that we help you walk through that tunnel of your fears, because we've done it in the past. And what an amazing story to have right now, at this time, when we're realizing that we can make change, we can do this, but we're going to be different on the other side. We walk through, and the story tells us that people changed. They had to learn to be free. They had to learn to not be governed by their fears. And in fact, let me just add sort of one more piece of the story. Everyone always says, well, why were they lost in the desert for 40 years? And they were not lost in the desert for 40 years. They were in the desert for 40 years so the generation that was slaves would give birth to a new generation who would understand freedom. We are that generation. We can do this. How do I know we can do this? Because I know there's a future. And I'm going to shift a little and go into astrology. I'm going to talk a little bit about the astrology, and then I'm going to call my friend Cindy and do a live reading for her. I know we can do this because we've done it in the past. Our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, people have been through really hard times. And when we come together with love as a community, we get through this. We absolutely do. So, astrologically, this time not only is affecting the world, but it's affecting each of us individually. So where is it affecting me? Where is it affecting you individually? We can find that in a person's chart. I think last time I was on, I talked about Saturn, and I talked about Aries, that's right, and Saturn moving into Aquarius. Well, right now what's happening is we still have Pluto up there in Capricorn, the planet Pluto, and I love this word, canoodling, meaning next to or conjunct the planet Jupiter. Pluto, I've said to you before, is the planet that clears the way. We can talk about it as destruction, but it takes away everything we no longer need in life and opens up sort of the vista so we can see where we should be going. And it's hanging out with Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of move things forward, expand. So in a negative sense, right, it could be expand fear, expand our resistance. But we can choose to have a positive focus on this. Expand our ability to change. Expand our ability to see what has not worked and to move forward. These are sort of natural transits of maturity and acceptance, and they show up in our individual chart. There's a gift, and it's that beneath all of our perceived material circumstances and needs, we know there are greater truths, and we can tap into those and tap into the vision we have of the future. And yes, there is a future. I promise you, there is a future. There's always a future. There's a future for the Israelites. There's a future for us. And at the same time, so we have that going on. And I'm gonna, when I do this reading, I'm gonna look at where that is in my friend Cindy's chart. And then we also have to look at, and we talked about this before, Saturn is next to Mars, so they're canoodling, they're conjunct, in Aquarius, which I happen to think is lovely. But they're at a right-angled square, the planet Uranus, which is the planet of who would you be if you'd never been socially programmed. It's the rebel planet. And that rebel planet is in the planet of hold on to security no matter what, in the sign of Taurus. What does that mean? The rebel planet is being restricted. And now we put Aquarius at a right angle to it and say, wake up, come on. Expect some earthquakes, which we had, right? And that's what it plays out for on the planet. Not maybe massive ones, but that's how it plays out. But what it really shows us is there's a tension. There's a tension between the old ways we've done things and the things we've tried to fix, because we've tried, and the new ways, the change. And we've always, as humans, resisted change. Always. Remember, 80% of slaves stayed in Egypt. We always resist change. And then sometimes we get to the point, there's a famous quote by Ananis Nin, the fear of staying a bud became greater than the fear of blossoming into a rose. That's where we are. That's exactly where we are. And we are all going to blossom together. And this time is pushing us to do that. For our health reasons, just for health, I want you to move that needle from fear to joy, fear to love. Why? Because we are healthier when we stay within a sense of love, of joy, of hope. We're physically healthier. That's one of the things I want you to hear. When you stay connected, however we stay connected with others, in that sense of love and joy and hope, we are healthier. We as a planet are healthier. And that's what's happening. This is a time where we can see through patterns and any way you sort of denied that you could live your true self. This is a time where you can, and one of my favorite sayings for myself is, walk in your power without fear or apology. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Now, I need you to bear with me because this is, I'm going to try some new technology here. I am going to use the phone here. And if this works, what that means is in the future, I will also be able to have other people call in and I can do other readings. So here's my sort of first shot at doing this. Be patient. I'm playing with technology. See if I have this all right. And I'm going to call my friend and we'll see if this works. I can't tell if it's ringing actually.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Cindy, can you hear me?
I hear you. How are you?
Okay, hold on. I'm still playing with technology just a little.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're okay now. Okay, oh perfect. This sounds wonderful. How are you doing?
I am well. How are you? And I have to say happy Passover.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, did you hear me at the beginning of the show at all talk about our adventure?
Oh my God, that was so hilarious. What a wonderful memory.
So I'm just curious because we've talked about it, but what was your sort of your tunnel experience while I'm back there having this like weird discussion with myself, right, in my brain? What was going on for you while you were walking through?
Not all tunnels were equal, as you recall. some of them were easy to see the light.
I
but
know.
The one you were talking about was, the monster tunnel that went on. And, it's got this, first of all, like you were saying, you can't stand up. It's going to whack your head.
Right.
It's pitch black. If you take a step, and it's very, very narrow where you can put your feet, only one in front of another, and if you take too much of a step for that, you're going down into this, we couldn't even tell how deep the water was, crashing into the water,
Right.
If someone's going to help you. So that's an adventure. But I'll be honest, I was more concerned about cracking my head and falling.
Right. Yeah.
It's what I was constantly watching for, was just my body and how I was managing it. But I felt you, and you had more anxiety in that particular tunnel than I did.
I did.
I wanted to caretake. At the same time, I was trying. It was madness. And then when you pee and you have to put the light in your mouth. It I mean, we were almost Laurel and Hardy. It was
that funny. It was that funny. And then you would ask me how I was, and I couldn't answer because I had this light in my mouth, and I couldn't talk.
And I felt like, just turn your head on.
I know. Or stop, take the hat off, put the light on, do that. But
it's like you can't think straight when you're in the middle of, maybe it was because it's dark, so you can't think.
well, and I couldn't stand up.
Exactly.
Right? So taking my hat off felt like an adventure, like I might fall into the Levada or something. Oh my gosh.
So funny.
Oh my gosh.
So funny.
So does that, so just out of curiosity, when I talk to you about the tunnel, does that sort of sound like an interesting metaphor for right now, where we are right now?
Oh, I think the whole world is in a tunnel like that. And we can't stand that. And yeah, curiously, because it also forces you to socially distance.
Yes.
We can't go side by side anymore.
Right.
I can't touch you. You know, you have to be, if I get too close to you, I might knock you into the water.
I know.
It's very much so. And then I think the rest of it is, we don't know the outcome. We don't know how, we had no idea when we entered there how long it was. There was no way to tell.
Right. And we didn't know if somebody would come back at us, and there was no way to pass.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's a great metaphor for where we all are, and it's just this collective uncertainty and anxiety and stress that the world is going through.
So I want to really thank you for joining me today, because I've known you for a long time. I've known your career, and one of the things I have to say about you is what I've seen you do in different career situations is, in any tough time, you have risen to the occasion and calmly led people out of those tunnels. Right? I'm really glad you were in front and I was behind.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So what?
And I appreciate it. Thank you for doing this. Is going to be new territory for me with the astrology club, so this is fun. This is fun, yeah, I know. And I want to take 1 second. I forgot to do this too, but I think you read my book, but I'm going to also give myself a shout out about this book I wrote, The Way of the Well, which you can get on Amazon.com. It's a spiritual adventure, and in so many ways, the heroine comes out of her own narrow place emotionally and with her family while she falls in love. So it's a spiritual romantic adventure, and I just want to give myself a plug for that. Okay, now we can go back to the real stuff. Okay, but I read it and I loved it, and it's a great little fun rom-com, spiritual rom-com. It is. It's a spiritual rom-com. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I am. I'm writing another one. Okay, so now let's do your chart. Okay. So ask me, because I know that we've talked astrology, but sometimes, like, I don't remember much of it. And I got the chart you sent me. Oh, good. Okay. Night, so I'm looking at it. Okay. And of course, it's all, oh my goodness, getting used to all the symbolism on it. Right. So through, just the basics. So anytime I run a chart for someone, the first thing it's always a circle, and there's always, and in fact, I'm just gonna hold up today's chart for anyone who's looking. They'll just see a general picture of what a chart looks like, which is a circle with a whole bunch of like glyphs and little things, right, in these divisions that look like pie pieces. And that's what a chart looks like. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and look at yours. So the first thing we always do, and you know this, is we do sun, moon, and rising in somebody's chart. And you're a sun, moon, Leo, like I'm a sun, moon, Aquarius. And you have a Aries rising. And so that's that brave heart of yours that goes forth and is willing to take on challenging situations and do it with grace and do it with dignity, always. I'm going to speed us a little because I want to get to a certain couple things. Okay. The thing that I always look at in a chart is the south and north nodes. And the reason I do that is in evolutionary astrology, which is what I've learned, the south node is what did you come here really good at? And the north node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really good at? And the north node is what did you come here really bad at? And the north node is what did you come here really good at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the north node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the north node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And the south node is what did you come here really bad at? And
right? Like maybe you learned it as a child. If you believe in past lives, you brought this forward from a past life. If you're not sure about past lives, things about epigenetics, you inherited it because somewhere you got it. That's our south node. And we can never lose that ability. However, we come here to augment it by living our north node. And then when we do that, both of those energies work together. Okay?
Okay.
So your south node is in Cancer in your fourth house. So let me remind you that a planet, and think of a node for a minute like a planet, is the what. So your sun is like your ego. South node is your gift, what you came here with. It can also be your wound, how you felt wounded. So you got your south node in a sign, and the sign is how you do it, and yours is in Cancer, so you do it from your heart. And then the house is where you do it, and it's in your fourth house, which is home. And when we think of home, we think of our house, but it can also be where we create home. Okay?
Oh, home is very important. My
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would think that even anytime you have an office, it's your home.
Oh, it has to be set up, yes.
Right. Yeah, it has to be set up for you, right? And so that it calls to
And
you.
it has to be pretty, I need it to be nice.
Right, because it's
It
in
doesn't have to be fancy, but I need it to be attractive and pretty.
because it's in Cancer, right? And so Cancer is also this sign of feeding people and take caring of people. So like when you said you felt like you had to take care of me in the tunnel, that's that Cancer south node. I have to go back and help her, which was physically impossible. There was no way to do it, right?
I know, you have to talk us through.
We talked us through, right? Right. You talked, I couldn't answer.
Oh, God.
I know, the whole thing was just, in retrospect, hysterical, right?
Funny.
In retrospect.
Yeah.
So let's look at what your soul came here to do, which is the north node. And the north node then is always directly across from the south node, and it is in your 10th house in Capricorn. So again, the planet is the what, the sign is the how, and the house is the where. So north node, what does your soul yearn to do? Okay? As weird as that sounds, that's what that talks about. It's in Capricorn. Capricorn has a lovely form of ambition. Capricorns like to build things, right? I've never met a Capricorn who didn't like to work with their hands in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, that's so funny.
And this is what you came here to develop, partly for yourself, but when we live our true essence, we also do it for the rest of the world. Okay, if that makes sense. So it's in your 10th house of career. Okay. So what that would say is that in some ways you came here to, and this doesn't, I'm not saying you haven't done this, I'm saying this is what your soul wants to do. You came here to take your skills and your abilities to build foundations and stability in career situations, wherever you wanted to do that, right? Now, here's a thing that I don't know that I've mentioned to you before. In your 9th house, you've got Mars in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is
what's 9th house?
It is your philosophy, your life philosophy. And here's why I think this is interesting, is because Sagittarius is the visionary. Sagittarius is always seeing like farsightedness. Where can we go? And your Mars is there. That's how you move. That's how you move other people forward. And I think that just adds to this ability, like, I see where we can go. And now in my 10th house,
I can tell what's going to happen before it happens.
Yes.
I can smell it. I'm like, come on, guys, can't you see if you do that, this will happen?
I know, which makes you a really good leader, right? And also, I have to say, a really good mentor, because you definitely have mentored me too. I just have to stop and say, I'm like so excited that I'm doing this technology. I hope it sounds good, because I can't tell at my end.
It does to everyone. I can hear you so well.
Okay, perfect. This is like my new KUHS Dr. Elisa Show technology adventure. There we go.
They're all done, they're all done.
Okay, now, why is this really important right now? And let's get back to this idea of the tunnel. Because Pluto and Jupiter are in Capricorn in that 10th house of yours, right? So they're moving in, your chart never changes, your birth chart. But the planets keep moving. And right now, the planets in the sky are sitting in your 10th house. They've been like annoying that.
And 10th is career?
Yes, where your north node is.
Oh my gosh.
Okay? And so they've been kind of directly opposite the planet Uranus in your chart. So let's do that. So when planets are opposite, so think about, you know, when you have a really good discussion with someone and you really listen to each other and you walk away with a higher level understanding of what you were talking about. Right?
I love it, like a debate.
Like a real debate,
Or,
not like what
a
we
philosophical discussion.
Yes, right. Okay. When planets are opposite, that's what they're doing.
Okay.
So Pluto, the planet of, you know, you don't need all this, I could just take it away, right? But I'm gonna,
the one that you said wipes is kind of
it wipes, right. But Pluto does it out of deep love, honestly. Because Pluto was the god of the underworld, but this planet always feels feminine to me. It feels like that very, very deep feminine medicine woman in the forest at night in the rain, right? I mean, it's like, but she knows what you need, right? Imagine her imagine Miriam in the story, and she says, we can cross this and sing on the other side. But you're going to have to walk through your fears to get there.
It's going to hurt a little bit, but
yeah.
I'm going to pull this bandage off.
Right, and I'm with you. We're going to do it together. That's Pluto.
Okay.
It's across from Uranus in your chart. Uranus is, I shall be free. I shall be unique. I shall do it my way, period. Do not tell me how to do it. And we've all got...
You are not the boss of me.
You are not the boss of me. And we've all got that in the chart. So here we have this deep, deep change planet having a deep, deep discussion with this planet of who am I if I take off every level of social programming? You know what, that's a great union if you think about it. Can you imagine me, you know, looking at the shaman, this medicine woman saying, well, I'd like to know who I was if I was down to my core, and she goes, I know exactly how to do that. Thank you for asking. Right?
And yet that's a little scary.
It's scary, yeah. But that is a big thing going on in your chart right now, where you're just sort of like, what is my best gift and my best ability that I bring forward?
I'm reading and listening a lot to work on vulnerability. Something that seems to be calling out to me.
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? How are we vulnerable enough to face our fears? Right? Because sometimes we don't want to do that with courage. We have to do it with vulnerable acceptance.
Yeah, I've always been, I'm fearless. I'm the tough one.
You are fearless. You are.
I'm not really, but I just don't listen to the stuff that says I'm scared. I just push.
I know. I think that's why we're good friends, because together we're fearless. Together, sometimes not one of us, but together we're good.
But I'm feeling it's interesting you're saying this. So this is like something contemporary that's going on
right now, right?
Okay.
And it's been going on.
Called to be more
vulnerable,
not to be passive, but
right.
to be more. Open about it.
To be ready to discover, I think, because we don't know. I mean, I don't know how to tell you to do it. I just know that is the energy that you're in. That is right. That's what you're going to come to understand about yourself. And then I want to add that the planet Uranus in the sky is in Taurus, which is at a right angle to your sun, and to mine too, by the way, and opposite your Saturn and opposite my rising. It's kind of interesting, since I know my chart and we're friends, I can say this. So when things are when they're opposite, you can have a really good discussion, right? When they're at right angles, it's like you have, I don't even know where to start the conversation, right? like, "Hi, welcome to Earth," and you're like, and the alien looks at you and goes, "Earth is not a planet. It is too small." And what was that book? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and it's been scheduled for destruction. You have a day to leave, right? I mean, you're out of here, right? Like, there's nowhere to start a discussion. So that planet is pressuring you in this time of, wow. The Uranus in the sky
in Taurus, I get it.
right, is saying, how do you want to define yourself? I'm doing the same thing, because mine's in Aquarius, right? At a right angle. How do you want to define yourself? And you can do it any way you want. And by the way, Uranus in the sky is a little irritable, so could you hurry this shit up, because I don't like it. And I'm like,
yes,
just do this. Right? So we have that sort of irritability sort of in the sky right now. Right, that's pushing all
I'm
this.
glad you're giving me explanations for all this stuff inside that I maybe wasn't even altogether conscious of. This is fun in a self-pushing kind of way. I'll call it fun.
Okay.
But it's good. I appreciate it because there's feelings. It's hard to know how much is. Am I just in my head with this? And I like having some sense making around it.
So this is helpful, right? This is
because I think I've been tending to just push this to the side, and
right.
Yet it keeps coming back up. Now you're saying, no, this is where you are, and so now I can just plunge right into it and now.
Right, and you've got to remember that these big planets, these outer planets that are further from the sun and from us, they move very slowly. So, people say, oh, the moon is in and it's affecting me. That's nice, it'll be in something else tomorrow, just hang on. Uranus is going to be there for a while, like the rest of the year. Pluto's been doing this for a year, more than a year, and it's
like, this isn't going away.
Like, this isn't going away.
You got to deal with it.
You got to deal with it. So don't keep thinking I'll just I'll just get to tomorrow and it'll all be better. It's like, well, it can be better, but if you go deep into yourself and deal with the things that are inside of you, it can be profoundly better.
I love the thoughts about modifying my career work. Like you're talking about.
Yeah, and not because it hasn't been wonderful, but because you're just going to do it differently.
No, it was great. I know I can't. It's almost like I can't make myself do that anymore.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. So listen, Cindy, I hate to do this, but I'm like
you.
1 minute from the end of my show, and so now I've got to figure out the technology to get you off my show and get back to my show. But thank you.
I loved it. Okay, take care.
Okay, bye. Okay, so now, hopefully, you can hear me and still see me. And thank you to Cindy for letting me look at her chart. If you're interested in me looking at your chart and having a conversation like that, but even deeper and privately, not in front of the entire world, you know how to contact me. You can reach me at KUHS Denver. You can reach me at the Dr. Elisa Show on Facebook and message me there. You can go to my website, elisarobin.com. Robin is spelled with a Y. You can find me in so many ways, and I truly am here to help you through this. And I believe that is the gift that I'm here for. I know my chart, and I talk to my astrologer, and I know that's part of what I'm here for. And please remember, I've got that PhD in Ed Psych, and I have 25 years helping people through change and transition as an academic dean. And believe it or not, I am at the end of this show. You've been listening to the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, and thank you for joining in. I want to do one more shout out to veteranspride.org. If you have any sense that you'd like some support for the veterans in your family, reach out to them. Also a shout out to Peak Wellness Acupuncture and Nancy Harmon, and she's an amazing acupuncturist. And right now, you know, she's having a little bit of struggle trying to get clients in because of everything going on, but she will be back, and she's also amazing. So thank you for listening to KUHS. Please stay tuned for some amazing music. Talk to you soon.